Better? Okay. Better? Okay. So you probably heard about what happened in Quebec City a couple of days ago. The incident and okay. So the history of racism and phobia is very old. It's not only in Quebec and other places. About 100 years ago, the people, the Catholics in New York City couldn't build a church. Catholics in New York City, they couldn't build a church because Catholics are a minority in the U.S. The U.S. is predominantly Protestant, which is another sect of Christianity, but they had a hard time, Catholics had a hard time to build a church. Back in the 1930s, in Canada and the U.S., the Jews had a hard time because they were being persecuted in Europe by Hitler, by other groups, the fascists. So when they came here, they were constantly attacked and they had a hard time. If you go to Google Images, there are still images that were taken back in the 1930s of some restaurants and public places with the signs, no dogs allowed, no Jews allowed, inside. This happened in Toronto 80 years ago. So it seems like many minorities have to go through all these issues and hatred and racism. There's always a public enemy. I'm going to be academic for a couple of minutes, then I'll try to explain, inshallah. It seems that there's always a public enemy, and the good news is the public enemy changes every 25, 30 years. So if you go back to the 1940s, the enemy was, at least in the West, the enemy was Japan, Germany, the Nazis, Italy, the fascists. Then, 25 years later, in the 1960s, the enemy became the Vietnamese. 20 years later, the 1980s, the enemy became the Russians. 20 years later, it's the Muslims, for a whole bunch of reasons. Then maybe another 5, 10 years, they'll pick on someone else, there will be another enemy. Maybe the Chinese, Allahu A'lam, we never know. But it seems to me, after reviewing history, there is always a different enemy. And political analysts say that this happened for a reason, 2 reasons. Number one, it's a uniting mechanism that nations use, and this goes back all the way to the Roman Empire. If we have a foreign enemy from outside or from inside minority groups, say for example, blacks, Latinos, Muslims, Jews, this will keep the majority of the nation together. This is how they think. And it's a distractive mechanism because if we have an enemy, then this will make the majority of the people forget about the political problems we have, the social problems we have, the economic problems we have. In other words, do anything to protect us from the enemy. We don't care about jobs, we don't care about the social life, we don't care about money, just protect us. So, according to these political analysts, especially from the US, and some of them worked in the White House, they say, well, if you don't have an enemy, just make one. It's that simple. It is bad, it's cruel, but this is the reality of things. Now, what do we need to do as a Muslim community? Alhamdulillah, the good thing, in the last couple of days after the incident happened, we have been overwhelmed with the outpouring support from the government, from Justin Trudeau, from mayors and governors and representatives from the government. Last night, the Imams, the Council of Imams, we had a meeting at the Sayyidah Khadija Center, and the police, the chief of the police came, the fire department, and the Minister of Finance came as a representative of the Trudeau government. But again, this is on the official level. Now I'm going to talk about what we can do as a Muslim community. Me, you, the teachers, Brother Henry, everyone in this room. What can we do? I think the best thing we can do as Muslims to stop these acts from ever happening again, and to reduce the level of hatred and Islamophobia. Number one, we need to open our doors and our houses to our non-Muslim neighbors and invite them and talk to them. They say in Arabic, Al-insan aduwwu ma yajhal. A person is the enemy of the unknown. Say for example, I don't know you. You came from a different culture, you speak a different language, you wear different clothes, you speak a different language. You are totally different from me. Then I'll always be afraid of you unless I get to know you. There's a sister in this school. I'm not sure if she is here or she is downstairs in the school. When she came to Canada, she had a neighbor, white Canadian neighbor. And the neighbor was scared of this Muslim sister. She was always giving them trouble, calling the police, saying that they are making noise. And the sister was saying she was calling the police even when I and the kids and the whole family was outside. We're not inside the house, but still she called the police to complain, we're making noise. Maybe a jinn or something, we don't know. Like, she was giving them a hard time. I and my family, we have been through the same thing. We had neighbors from here, so they gave us a hard time. Not banging on the wall, cussing at us, giving us a hard time. So what do you do basically? What the sister did, she started to go and visit this neighbor, giving her gifts, inviting her over for coffee, and they talk. Now they are very good friends. The sister says, when I'm late from school, the neighbor will wait for my kids to pick them up, to take them from the bus. This is how close they became. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, and I conclude with this, ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Respond to evil with good. Then the person between whom and you is hatred, or you both are locked up in a feud, then eventually you will become as good friends. They say that a wise person, keep this in mind, it's a very good hikmah. A wise person is the person who is able to change enemies into friends. But the foolish person is the person who is able to turn friends into enemies. So always look for ways to make friends, talk to people, invite them over. Inshallah, we're going to have open houses here in the Masjid. In Ramadan, we'll have the taste of Ramadan. We'll invite people to come and have iftar with us and to get to know us, inshallah. And be good and kind to everyone. Let people see Islam in your actions. Let people know that you are a Muslim through your actions, how good you are to them. In this way, people will change their attitude toward Muslims. In this way, people will come closer to us and they will see the humanity in us, that we are human beings. We came here for a better life, for good education for our kids, so we can grow as a community. We're not here to harm anyone. We're here to just live like everybody else. We came for a better opportunity. We're not here to impose Sharia law on anyone or to take over the country or kill it. No, we're here to live a good life just like everyone else and live a decent life. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept those who died as shaheed, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give a speedy recovery to those who have been injured, and to give patience to the families of the victims, and protect us in our communities and give us the best in this life and the best in the life to come. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.